Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven, and today I would like to talk to you about fruit in your beer. Fruit, vegetables, all that kind of stuff, and how to process it, how to add it to your beer. But before we get started, do me a favor if you would be so kind and hit the subscribe button down below and the like button. That helps me get found in the YouTube algorithms, and you'll be notified every time I put out a new video. So let's get started. There's been a lot of talk recently about what to do with fruit or vegetables. Like I recently did a cucumber kolsch. In fact, I could put a video, I think it'll be up in this corner, link to it if you'd like to see that. So I had to deal with, of course, the cucumber. So whether it's, a cucumber or some kind of fruit like a raspberry Weizen or something that you're making, you have to decide how you're going to deal with the fruit or that added item. So people do it differently. I have kind of decided on a way that I do it, and I've been doing it for a while and had no issues with it, and I think it results in the best possible end, result. But let's get started with what some other people do. So one thing that people are doing is they're using a neutral spirit like vodka. So they're taking their fruit or their vegetable or whatever they're going to use, and they're soaking it in, a spirit. And of course, the purpose is to kill any kind of wild yeast or, anything that might be on it that could harm your brew. And so certainly that will work. I mean, that certainly is strong enough to do the job. But you kind of sort of have to pour the entire concoction into your brew. Because when you soak something in a neutral spirit like that, it's going to pull juice and flavors out, and you don't want to lose that juice and that flavor. So depending on how much, sometimes when you're making something that's really heavily fruited, that's a lot of fruit. If you got poundage of fruit, that's a lot of vodka that you'd be adding to your brew. So I don't know if that's such a great option. But if it's just a small thing, for example, I will use something like vodka, or sometimes I'll use like bourbon or something, depending on what I'm making, to soak things like cacao, or what else do I? Like if I oak something, I'll soak the oak a little bit in some sort of spirit. So I do sometimes use a spirit, but not usually with fruit. So another option that people are suggesting is using a Campden Tablet. So Campden basically kills everything and removes bleach and all that kind of stuff. So you could make a solution of water, put your fruit and stuff in it, throw in the Campden Tablet. Two problems with that is that you have to let it sit for 24 hours because your yeast from your brew will not be able to work on it. It's going to kill anything. So you have to give it 24 hours to dissipate. And in that time, all the juice and flavor is going to leach out of your fruit or whatever into that water. And you really want to pour all that water into your brew? I don't know. Again, it's an option that could work. I just don't know that it's the best option. There's another option, Star San. Some people suggest soaking your fruit or vegetable or whatever in a Star San solution. I think you still have the same problem with using the Campden solution, which is you really don't want to pour Star San into your brew, so you're going to have to drain all that off, and all the flavor that might have gotten, leached out is going to go down the drain before you put the fruit in. So will it work? Yes. Is it the best option? Probably not. So those are some of the big things I see out there people doing. There's one more I've even seen in a lot of recipes which talk about boiling your fruit or vegetable. So you're on brew day, you finished your mash, you're doing your boil, you're the last 5 or 10 minutes of your boil, it says to throw in X, Y, or Z. Let's say you're doing cherries. So you throw your cherries in the last 5 minutes of the boil. Here's the problem with that. Anytime you're heating up a fruit or vegetable, it changes the flavor. You know this. There's a huge difference between a cooked vegetable, and a raw one. The flavor and everything is totally different. So you're changing the flavor. Also, you're going to have to put it in some kind of bag, like a mesh bag, and then throw it into your boil. Then you're going to have to fish it out because, you're going to have to cool down your wort before you transfer it to a fermenter. So you got to fish out the fruit and try to let it drip. And if it's something like cherries, man, that stuff stains, and it's going to be difficult to transfer that to your fermenter. Then it's going to sit in your fermenter for however long it takes you to cool your wort. So that time it's sitting in the fermenter is time that it can actually get, you know, stuff on it you don't want on it in your brew. So I'm not a big fan of boiling, mostly because of the flavor changes that's going to happen with it, but also it's inconvenient. It's a pain to have to transfer the fruit to the fermenter, and then again it has to sit in the fermenter while you're waiting for your wort to cool. So that is an option. That is written in a lot of recipes, but I don't ever do it that way. Here's what I do. I'm going to give you my method. So what I do is I take, first of all, I just do my normal brew, whatever the brew recipe is, and I get it brewing, and I set it aside. And I let it go for 2 weeks. So that means that your brew has really gone through its full fermentation pretty much. And it's now at the point that it's probably reabsorbing off flavors into the yeast, and it's mellowing. So during that time, you want to take your fruit or your vegetables and put it in like a plastic bag or whatever, a Ziplocker, freeze it. If you can, remove the outer skin. Sometimes the outer skin of stuff can cause bitterness and tannins and stuff. So I usually try not to use the skin depending on what I'm making. I mean, obviously, you know, berries doesn't matter, right? Because there's not skin to remove. But you got to be really careful, like with orange. Orange skin and that sort of stuff has the pith in it. But anyway, cut it up into whatever sizes you want and freeze it. The reason you freeze it is not to kill any organisms on it, because we've actually found that that does not work. I will see if I can find it, but the Dr. Han's brewing channel, he did a video where he froze fruit and then took it out, and even when it was in a vacuum sealed container, it actually started to expand inside the container, meaning that there was wild yeast that was still alive on that fruit even after it was frozen. So if I can find the video, I'll post the link up in the corner. Again, I think it's on this corner up here, if I can find it. If I can't find it, I apologize. I'll just put a link to his main page if I can't find it. But he already did this experiment proving that freezing fruit does not kill the wild yeast. So you're not doing it for that. You're doing it because when you freeze fruit or vegetables, it causes the cellular walls in that fruit or vegetable to start to break down, and then you thaw it out. Now, I've heard of people doing this several times, like freeze, thaw, freeze, thaw. I don't think it's necessary to go to that extreme. I just freeze it once, take it out, put it in the fridge for a few days to thaw out. And then you'll find a whole bunch of juice in the bag because it broke those cell walls down. And then what I like to do is I take a hop bag or a milk bag, if you've seen those, they're really fine mesh. And I'll take a bowl that I sanitize with Star San and then, you know, drain out the excess. And I'll spray the bag down with Star San as well and wring it out. So we don't want a ton of Star San, I just want to sanitize it. And then I pour the now thawed fruit into that bag. I use the bowl because you're going to have a bunch of juice that comes through it because it's going to be kind of juicy at this point. And then I put a weight. Now you can buy glass weights, and I'll put a link in the description on the one I use. But they sell weights for like sauerkraut and other kinds of fermented items that you can use. So you can get a glass weight. Anything that's food safe is fine. Put that in the bag so it's going to pull the bag to the bottom of your beer. Now you tie it up, take it over to your beer that's been fermenting for several weeks, and gently, so you don't stir it, put it into your beer so it sinks to the bottom. You want it to sink to the bottom, otherwise you could get mold growth if it sits on the top and has access to any kind of oxygen. If it's underneath the beer, the alcohol in the beer and the lack of oxygen under, at the bottom of it is going to keep mold from growing. You can leave it there for a couple weeks, depending on how much, flavor you want to try to extract, and boom, you're done. Take it out after 2 weeks and finish the beer as you would. So that's what I do for fruit. I don't know if that helps, but I have found that works pretty well, and I've never had an issue with wild yeast or mold or any kind of lactobacillus or any issues with that by doing this. I think the freezing and the fact that you've already got a decent amount of alcohol in your brew keeps any problems at bay. So, hey, thanks for stopping by and watching my video. appreciate it. There'll be another one out in a week. And until then, I'll see you soon and happy brewing.